So thank you for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started right away. So the first thing we want to talk to you about is a few housekeeping items. All right. We're using the Zoom platform to host tonight's session. And throughout the session, you're welcome to unmute and engage and ask questions if you feel comfortable, because we really love hearing your voices. You can also use the chat box anytime during the session to ask questions or add comments. There will be a Q&A at the end. So if we don't respond right away, we will circle back during that time of the session. So don't worry, we're going to get your questions answered. This session will be recorded and posted on the DCPS YouTube page. So double check your camera settings now. Okay. Make sure your cameras are off. Also, we're offering simultaneous interpretation in Spanish today, so I'm going to pause to give folks a moment to select interpretation if needed. There are the directions right here. All right, here we are. So again, we're going to welcome ourselves and welcome to you. My name is Dana Caffey Glenn. I'm the Director of ECE Strategy, Logistics, and Special Programs, and I'll hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Cheryl Olson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cheryl Olson. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Early Childhood Division with DC Public Schools and also a former DCPS pre-K and kindergarten teacher and a former DCPS parent as well. I'll pass it over to Sadria.
Good evening, families. My name is Sadria Wilson, and I'm one of the Early Childhood Family Services Managers with the Early Childhood Division. And I will pass it over to my colleague from to Lanika.
Yes, I'm Lanika Womack. I am the lottery coordinator. The lovely woman pictured is my counterpart, Lauren Brooks. She cannot make it today, but I am here to help you with everything lottery related.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. Good evening again to all the parents. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Since you're here with us on this call, I am assuming that you're facing the sometimes daunting prospect of finding the right pre-K program for your little one. And I'm sure that many of you are wondering, where do I start? How do I figure out which pre-K program is right for my child? What does DCPS have to offer? And of course, how does the lottery work? We'll get to that one at the end. That one also always is a very popular topic. So we know that every family is very much unique and has different priorities when choosing a pre-K program, but we also know that all families want their child to attend a program that's safe and that's joyful and that prepares them for success in kindergarten and beyond kindergarten as well. So for our time together tonight, we'll try to touch on the considerations that are most important to you as you're making this important decision. And of course, we'll talk about what makes DCPS unique as well. All right, so on this slide, you'll see how we'll spend our time together this evening. First, I'll give you an overview of our pre-K program at DCPS, and then we'll talk about what's unique about DCPS, our staff and our student experience, our curriculum, our classrooms, what the daily schedule is like, how our little people experience the day every day in our pre-K programs, and what the comprehensive programming is that we have to offer. So that's not only the classroom experience, but all of the additional services that we offer as well. At the end of the session, again, as Dana mentioned, we'll leave some time to address the lottery process and time for questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the fact that you're here with us tonight probably means that you already recognize the importance of high quality pre-K programs. We know from years of research that high quality pre-K programs can have a significant and lasting impact on children's school readiness, their achievement through school, and even their later life outcomes. And this includes helping to ensure that children are ready for success in kindergarten. Children who attend high quality pre-K programs tend to do better, not only as they enter kindergarten, but throughout their elementary school careers. And this includes increased literacy achievement, increased math achievement. And so some studies have even shown that high quality pre-K programs can have an impact all the way through high school graduation and beyond. Go ahead. All right, many of you probably know this already. If not, DC is known throughout the country as a national leader in early childhood education. We're really, really proud of that. DC leads the nation in access to pre-kindergarten for both 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And we also lead the nation in spending on early childhood education, which really demonstrates the district's long-standing commitment to providing access to high-quality early childhood services for our youngest learners. And I won't read these quotes to you. I know you can read them on your own, but as you can see from this slide, DC's commitment to high quality early childhood programming is really paying off. I like to say that we have many of the very best pre-K programs in the region. And the annual assessment of pre-K quality that DC does, not only in DCPS, but in the charter sector as well every year. This is called the class assessment. And our class assessment last year showed that our classrooms achieved their highest ratings ever, including ratings that assess the extent to which the classrooms are supportive, responsive, nurturing, and the extent to which they help children develop social emotional skills, reasoning skills, problem solving skills, all of those things that we know are so important as our little people are preparing to enter kindergarten and beyond. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Sadria.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Good evening again, everyone. So let's get started with an overview of our programming here at DC Public Schools. So we have 136 pre-K3 classrooms within our program, and that would be with approximately 2,100 pre-K3 students. Also with that, we have 163 pre-K4 classrooms with approximately 3,400 pre-K4 students. 68 mixed age classrooms. So we have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds in the same classroom. We have 68 of those. And our students come from more than 100 different countries and speak more than 100 different languages as well. At 6 of our elementary schools, we offer eligible pre-K families enrollment in Head Start as well. Head Start provides an additional layer of case management support, as well as parenting support, health promotion, and mental health services to families who are homeless, on TANF, or struggling with income and parenting to foster a child. Students with Head Start also take field trips. They have access to counseling for kids and families. They also are able to receive additional supplies and materials and offer parents leadership opportunities in a district-wide Head Start Parent Council. These schools are ideal for pre-K families who are struggling to find employment, access healthcare, or meet their family needs. These schools have full-time case managers that are assigned to those schools and to the pre-K families, who are also there to offer referrals, trainings, and parenting classes. Tonight, you'll see that we're going to talk quite a bit about our amazing educators. We are very proud of our teachers and the work that they do on behalf of children and families each day. Our teachers are highly trained with expertise in early childhood development and learning. Unlike many other pre-K programs across the nation, all of our DCPS early childhood teachers are fully certified and have at least a bachelor's degree in early childhood education or a related field, and most have advanced degrees. Also, all of our assistant teachers have at least an associate's degree or 48 hours of college credits, and our teaching staff receives ongoing coaching and training to support them in providing excellent instruction to our students. You will see at DCPS, our pre-K classrooms remain small. Our in-person pre-K classes will never have more than 16 students, and in our pre-K4 classroom, they will never have more than 20 students. So this allows our teachers to really get to know each child and to provide a great deal of individualized attention to each child. And our self-contained special education classrooms are capped at 12 students with at least 2 supporting adults in that room. And now I'll pass it over to my colleague, Dana.
All right. Thank you so much, Adria. All right. So one of the most important things to know about our program is that what we believe about how young children learn and what their school experience should feel like. At DCPS, we believe that all young children are capable and competent learners, and that their voices and ideas are welcomed and valued in our classrooms. We believe that children thrive in environments in which they feel safe and welcomed, valued, and loved. And we care about their learning, your child's learning, but we also really care about how your child feels while they're at school. And we want all of our young learners to know that they're important, that they're valued in our classrooms, and to know that they're safe and loved. Right? In our classrooms, children learn through a combination of intentional play and teacher-led lessons and joyful learning experiences. Our approach to early learning is based on years of research that outlines how young children learn best. And that research shows that young children learn best through active, hands-on experiences, including child-directed play and intentional teacher-led experiences and activities. Based on this research, our classrooms follow a project-based approach through which children learn through fun, hands-on experiences. Our teachers design learning experiences that focus on promoting children's language, literacy, their math, science, social, emotional development, and creativity through joyful learning activities. And that's to prepare them for kindergarten, but really to prepare them for kindergarten and beyond. You might notice that the word joyful is on this slide twice, and that's because we recognize that joy should be a big part of every young child's experience in our schools. Very important to us. Here on this slide, you'll get a sense of what the daily schedule looks like for our pre-K classrooms. You'll see lots of opportunities throughout the day for teacher-led lessons and to facilitate a variety of learning experiences and activities. So each day, children participate in targeted small group lessons. That allows teachers to target specific skills based on data. The teachers take a lot of notes, a lot of data. They do read alouds and whole group meetings, and they have the opportunity for outdoor play. Breakfast and lunch are eaten in the classroom in what we call family style lunch, because it's an opportunity for children to engage with one another and with relaxing conversations with their teachers and their friends while they eat. Teachers also use mealtime as a learning activity, to use conversation to promote children's language skills and critical thinking. Recognizing that our children are still very young and often become tired by midday, they're also given the opportunity to rest or nap after lunch. Those students who don't need to nap or who are not sleepy yet are provided with quiet activities to work on during this time, like reading books or working on puzzles. One of the times of the day that we really like to highlight is our center time. Our pre-K classrooms are designed to support active hands-on play, as we've been talking about. Each pre-K classroom includes a variety of learning centers, like the ones on the right of this slide. For instance, we have the Science and Discovery Center, the books, the blocks, the water and sand play, the dramatic play, which is my favorite center, library and listening, the art, technology, and then a toys and games center. So these are general centers. So each day, children are able to choose which center that they like to play in, and those centers direct their own, and in those centers, they direct their own play and learning. The teacher and the assistant teachers work and play with the children in the centers, and they ask questions and incorporate learning into the play. So teachers are frequently adding new materials to the centers to provide children with new experiences and to keep them interested and engaged. Teachers also frequently lead small group lessons while the other children are working and playing in centers under the supervision of the assistant teachers. So our classrooms are very dynamic places. Okay. So the learning centers are designed to encourage children's deep engagement in play and promoting those big ideas. So this slide gives you some examples of the skills that are developed in each of the learning centers. Center time allows teachers to observe children's learning and the developmental progress in an authentic way. So for instance, the Block Center, that has a lot to do with those big ideas around math and spatial skills. problem solving, critical thinking, social skills. And then my favorite area, the dramatic play, gives you language skills, literacy, social skills, and also creative thinking skills. So there's a lot of learning and development happening in these centers as children play in these different ways, these various ways. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl.
All right, thanks, Dana. So one thing that's new in our classrooms this year is the Building Blocks math curriculum, which we introduced in our pre-K program last summer. And I'm really excited to talk about. Before we made this decision, we explored a lot of different curriculum options and engaged teachers and parents and principals and others. So let me just take a moment to talk about why we selected Building Blocks. First, we know that Building Blocks focuses on the right skills. And what I mean by that is it's aligned with DCPS's kindergarten standards. So it's addressing very similar skills, but in a developmentally appropriate way, so that when children transition from pre-K4 into their kindergarten classroom, they have the prerequisite skills that they need to be successful. And also they're used to the similar math language, similar math experiences, that type of thing. The skills that are addressed in Building Blocks are based on the core areas of math learning that we know are the most predictive of children's subsequent learning in math. So basically, they're the skills that we know are most foundational and most important as children move on in their elementary school career. The second reason relates to something Dana was talking about just a moment ago. Building Blocks is fully aligned with the science of early learning. And what I mean by that is simply that we know a lot about how young children learn. We know they learned, as Dana talked about, through play, through hands-on learning and activities that emphasize thinking and reasoning and things like that. And that really is kind of the hallmark of Building Blocks learning. It's based on playful activities. We don't even call them lessons because they're not like lessons. They really are games and activities that for children feel like play. We know that 3 and 4 and 5-year-old children don't have long attention spans. So these are very, very short, fun, hands-on activities. And finally, we selected Building Blocks because we know it works. It's been studied for many, many years in pre-K classrooms across the nation, and including in cities that are very similar to ours in terms of size of the school districts and demographics and things like that. And what those studies have shown that kids who are in Building Blocks classrooms significantly outperform their peers in all math skills. So we know from years of research that the curriculum works and it really helps children to learn. Go ahead. In addition to the classroom program that we've talked about for the last several minutes, we also have a wide range of comprehensive services for children, teachers, and families to round out the learning experiences. As you'll see here, we offer specialized services such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, special education therapy, and mental health supports. Additionally, all of our pre-K students participate in art classes, music classes, physical education classes, and different experiences as well throughout the day. And Sadria, I'm going to send it back to you again.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So on this slide, you'll see that in many of our schools, we have social service supports available for families who can benefit from case management and other support services. So we recognize that it's just not your little one who's starting school, it's the whole family. And we'll support the whole family through this transition and throughout your little one's pre-K years. Next slide, please. So at the start of this presentation, I mentioned that many of our best pre-K classrooms in the DC region can be found here in DC Public Schools. One of the reasons for this is the support that we can provide to our teachers. Our pre-K teachers receive ongoing training as well as professional development opportunities and ongoing coaching, and this helps them to continue to learn new skills and improve their practice. Our teachers are constantly learning more and are perfecting their work so that way they can create the best possible learning environments for your children. And finally, we've talked quite a bit about play and learning through fun activities, but I also want to assure you that our children are learning while they're having fun and that they leave our pre-K classrooms ready for success in kindergarten and beyond. Based on all of our pre-K assessments, more than 92% of our pre-K students are meeting or exceeding developmental expectations, and children who enroll in DC Public Schools pre-K programs also outperform national literacy averages upon kindergarten entry.
All right.
At this time, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sidri. I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
no, no, go ahead, Drew.
Welcome. Yeah, so at this time, if anyone has questions about any of the information that was already shared or about our programming, I know we haven't gotten to the lottery part yet, which is always a highlight. But if there are questions about the program, please feel free to put them in the chat or to unmute. I'll pull one from the chat. I see. Do all the schools hold open houses for parents to visit the pre-K classrooms and meet the teachers?
On our website, and I'll drop that link in just a second, we do have a list of the current open houses that they that all of the schools are holding currently. Some may have passed, but we do encourage you, if you missed one, just call the school. Maybe some schools will schedule, they'll allow you to come visit the school. There may be other events that you can go to at the school. They may, have a program or a fair, something of that nature that you can go and visit the school. So I would encourage you to call the school if there is an open house date that you missed. So I will drop that in the chat.
Thanks so much, Lanika. All right, and then also, if your child is young for his class, can you wait a year and enroll the following year? Essentially, like, could you hold a student back? Lanika, do you want to take this one since it has to do with the age that the student is when they need to enroll in pre-K 3 versus pre-K 4?
So if your child does not meet the age requirement, I believe it's 3 by, and somewhat, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I believe it's September 30th.
30th, yep.
Yes. Then they cannot attend. If they're not 3 by September 30th, 4 by September 30th, or 5 for kindergarten by September 30th, they cannot attend. So they will have to wait until they turn this specific age.
I'll add on to that just to note that the opposite is also true, which is we do strictly adhere to the age guidelines. So a child would not be able to enroll in the grade that is below what their age is. So we do strictly adhere to those age guidelines that Lanika mentioned, whether it's the child's not old, but not young, but the child is too young or too old, they will be enrolled in the grade that aligns with their birthday.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions before we move on? Oh, there's a question I see. Is that true for kindergarten as well?
That is true for kindergarten as well. There's a little bit more flexibility once children have entered kindergarten in terms of parents and teachers. If there is a situation, for example, where parents and teachers may both agree that developmentally the child is not quite ready for the next grade, there are some situations in which a child is able to either move ahead or stay back. But that's usually a decision that's made between the parents and teachers.
Thanks, everyone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide, but we'll keep an eye on the chat and we'll have another opportunity for questions at the end.
All righty, let's talk about the My School DC lottery. So some of our top frequently asked questions are, how do I know if my child is eligible for pre-K? We just went over this. 1, you must live in DC. The second, pre-K 3 must be 3 years old by September 30th, 2024. Pre-K 4 must be 4 years old by September 30th, 2024. In kindergarten, they must be 5 by September 30th. So who needs to apply for the My School DC lottery? Families must use the My School DC lottery to apply for all DCPS pre-K programs not currently attended. So this includes in-boundary, out-of-boundary, or citywide programs. It also includes public charter schools, which are or non-DCPS public schools. And where do I go to fill out the lottery application? You could go to myschooldc.org to fill out the application. And I know sometimes this process may feel overwhelming, but I promise you the application portion is very intuitive. So navigating the My School DC lottery, the first step is to visit My School DC. The website is www.myschooldc.org. The second step is to explore all your pre-K options using the DCPS enrollment website. And on this website, this is where our open house dates are. You can look at the school finder. You can find your in-boundary, find your in-boundary school using your address. So definitely explore the website just to do some research, see what your best fit is. Some key dates to keep in mind. This year, we went back to in-person FFest. Saturday, December 2nd was the FFest for grades pre-K 3 to 8. Hopefully you all had a chance to attend. All of our pre-K 3 to 8 schools were there. And this is an opportunity for you to engage with the schools. You can ask any questions. You can see what they have to offer. You could get a feel of what the school is about. December 9th, that was our high school Ed Fest. This year was the first year that they had two separate Ed Fest. Previously it was one Ed Fest, but of course, due to COVID, we want to be safe and things of that nature, so they split it out. So December 9th, if you have any high school students, that was the high school fair. December 11th is when the lottery application opened for all grades. But don't fret if you did not do your application. It is not a first come, first serve application. So you definitely have time. Tomorrow, February 1st, is the application deadline for grades 9 through 12. On March 1st is the application deadline for grades pre-K 3 to 8. So if you have if you're applying for your pre-K 3 student, try to get your you have to get your application in by Friday, March 1st. And it's a hard deadline at 11:59. And that is so you can get a match, so you can, get placed in a school. So there isn't a time constraint on how early you can submit, but there is a time constraint on the late. So definitely try to get your application in by March 1st. March 29th, that is when the lottery results are available. So you'll see if you got matched to the school of your choice. You'll see if you got waitlisted. And then that is also the day that enrollment opens for all DC public schools. So what that means is once you get your match, you can go ahead and submit your enrollment papers to get that spot. Saturday, April 27th, that's our enrollment Saturday date. So if you didn't get a chance to submit your enrollment packet, or if you didn't get a chance to do it online, that Saturday, the majority of our schools will be open, so that they will be ready to receive any paperwork, any application, proof of residency that is still outstanding to secure a slot for your student. So definitely come and check us out. On our website, we will have the schools that are participating and all that pertinent information. Next slide. Okay, so navigating the My School DC lottery. So the third step is to select. You can select up to 12 schools that interest you. The minimum is 1, so you don't have to select 12 schools. You could put 3 on the application, but it's very important to rank them in order of your preference. So let's say I'm really interested in one school over another school. I would rank that school as number 1, and so on and so on. You would fill out the application again between December 11th and March 1st. Don't forget that March 1st deadline. That is very important. And in the screenshot, this is what the website looks like. So if you have any questions, you can see the key dates. You can stop your application and log back in to complete it. So definitely peruse that website if you haven't started yet. Next slide. And any questions that you have about any schools or enrollment, you can go to our website at enroll.dcps.dc.gov, or you can email us at enroll@k12.dc.gov.
Thanks so much, Lanika. I'm sure that there are lots of questions about lottery and enrollment. So again, guests, please feel free to enter those into the chat, or you're welcome to unmute. see a question in the chat that might need a little bit of clarification. If we have guaranteed in-boundary enrollment, will we be able to do so on March 1st? Or will we have to wait until the 21st?
I just want to
For-
clarify. So if you, so in boundary, so if you have a pre-K 3 or pre-K 4 student, even if you are in boundary, you still have to go through the lottery. I just want to clarify that.
And what
I'm sorry,
what is
go
that?
ahead.
I was gonna say, and so what is that based, what is is it just who submitted their application first, or I mean, how is that determined
If you submit a match, if you get a match.
well, so we only submitted one school, it's our in-boundary school.
Okay.
And it said if we were guaranteed placement.
Yeah, so pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, you do get a preference. So the preference will help with the algorithm with securing a match. So you'll receive an in-boundary preference. And that's because grades K and up, if you're in boundary, you don't have to apply through the lottery. So only pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, they do get an in-boundary preference. So you also would get a proximity preference. A proximity preference is if, let's say you have an in-boundary school, but there's a school that's closer to you, maybe 0.5 or less miles closer than your in-boundary school. And zoning is weird. So, some things may
Well,
differ
this was
there.
the only one in our in-boundary and preference.
Yeah. So you would get an in-boundary preference, which will make your chances greater to get a match.
But so we still have to wait until the 21st because we're worried about enrolling in at the aftercare program because that's also on a first come first serve.
Yeah, so you
wait
you
21
will have
days.
to wait to enroll, until enrollment starts that first day, until the matches, till the results are released.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so
Can I-
I'm sorry. So the question was, are you never guaranteed a pre-K spot in boundary or only K and above? So K and above, you're guaranteed, you have rights to your in-boundary school. So at any time, if you're in kindergarten above, you can walk into your in-boundary school and submit the enrollment paperwork, and you're guaranteed a spot. So pre-K, you are not guaranteed a spot. So you have to go to through the lottery. And again, the lottery is an algorithm. So it's a lottery, it's random. So you're not guaranteed a spot.
The only thing I'll chime in there to add is we have a small number of schools that have a program called Early Action. And I'm going to put that in the chat. And so early action schools, if you live in boundary in those schools, you are guaranteed a spot, but it's just a limited number of our schools.
Sorry, so I was asking the question before. My school is one of the early action schools.
Okay.
So then will I still have to wait till the 21st?
Yes, what Linika mentioned before is still the case, that you still would
Okay.
wait until the 21st to get the confirmation, essentially.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you all so much. What other questions do we have about the lottery or about any of the pre-K programming that we talked about earlier?
How does one determine if their in-boundary school is an early action school or not?
That's great.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead.
Cheryl.
Well, I was just going to note that I put it in the chat, so you should be able to click on that link. And if you have any trouble accessing that link, Drew, she can reach out directly to us and we can confirm, right? Is there yes, we have an
Absolutely.
email right here
Yep.
on the slide. Actually, you can email the email address that you see right here on the slide, and we can confirm for you.
And if you don't know what your in-boundary school is, I will drop that link in the chat as well. And you just input your address and it'll tell you, what school is inbounds for you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And this might be a good question for Cheryl or Dana or Cedria, one of the questions that was frequently entered on the registration form was, what should I consider when choosing a school? And so we know that we have a wide variety of choices for families, but what are some of the things that families should think about when they're selecting their 12 schools to put on the lottery form?
I can take that unless somebody else wants to chime in. I'll get started, and then anybody else can feel free to hop in. I think proximity to your home, obviously, or your work is something that a lot of parents address as one of their highest priorities. Also being part of the school community, I think that relates to the proximity to the home too, being able to be in a school that your child can stay at for the years to come through elementary school, or possibly where there are siblings. So the location of the school is important for a lot of families. A lot of our programming, as we've talked about tonight, is based on the same curriculum, the same general approach to early childhood education. So you're really not going to see that many differences in terms of the same general approach. But we do have a number of schools across the district that do offer some unique programming. We have some schools that have some Montessori classrooms as well. If that's of interest, we have some schools that have dual language programming and Spanish immersion classrooms also. And then we have a number of schools that have various partnerships with community organizations. For example, Wolf Traps works with some of our schools for arts programming. And so Lanika mentioned a few moments ago the open houses. The open houses are a great opportunity to go to the different schools and learn about the different types of programming. But the core experience will be consistent across schools. All of our teachers are required to have a bachelor's degree. Many have well beyond a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. So we're talking about highly trained early childhood professionals, the same curriculum and the same general approach as I mentioned. Dana or Cedria or Drew, anything you would add to that?
The only thing that came to mind for me was also beyond elementary school. So I know some parents, it's important for them to think about the middle school track and the high school track. And so when they're looking at which elementary school to pick, sometimes they will look beyond to ensure that they're comfortable with all three of their feeder schools. So that's also a consideration that some of our families have mentioned before.
And I'll put the link to the feeder patterns in the chat.
Great. And I see a question in the chat about would you all happen to know which schools are dual language? I could name some off the top of my head, but I feel like probably the safest bet is to go to the My School DC website and select that as one of the indicators, because that will filter and show you all the schools that are dual language programs for sure. A question in the chat. Can you say a little bit more about the difference between specialized schools and education campuses versus elementary schools that you just sent the link for? Great. Yeah. So I think just like clarifying the difference between education campuses and specialized programs.
So the education campuses simply mean that they have a wider grade range. So our education campuses go from pre-K all the way through 8th grade. So essentially it is combining the elementary school in the middle school grades. So we have a number of education campuses. In terms of specialized schools, that I don't think that is an official term, Lanika, unless I'm wrong. I think so, we have schools that have different programming, like I mentioned, like there might be Montessori classrooms. We have some schools that follow approach that's called Reggio Emilia inspired. Can provide more detail on that if that would be helpful. Things like that, but we don't actually have specialized schools at the elementary level. But please feel free to let me know if I'm interpreting that question wrong.
Thanks, Cheryl. There was a question a little bit ago about how to choose school, and I will say definitely take advantage of school open houses, opportunities to visit the school, to meet the teachers, to meet other families. One thing that I found particularly helpful as a parent, having a pre-K student for the first time, is look out for invitations from the school in the spring and summertime for playdate opportunities. These are a great way to visit the school playground, bring your child with you, and really get a feel for the community. Other questions about the lottery or programming? What are the differences between Montessori, or what differentiates Montessori ECE from other programs? That's a great question. Cheryl or Dana, would either of you like to talk a little bit about the difference between some of the Montessori classrooms and our traditional ECE classrooms?
Dana, you want me to get started on that?
I can get started on that.
Okay.
So the Montessori approach, it's an approach that that has in the ECE classrooms, it blends all of the grades together and they follow a very specific approach that was started by Maria Montessori. They have very it's just open-ended. They don't follow necessarily the same curriculum as the rest of the schools, the rest of the ECE programs, but it's still very much child-centered, child-directed, play-based. So it is different in just the approach is different than what the rest of the school system does. Yeah.
I'll add that the age range is a little bit broader too. And so children typically stay in a Montessori classroom includes 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. So what in a typical program when children would transition from pre-K 4 into kindergarten classroom, in a Montessori program, they stay in the same classroom. And so they kind of move up with each other as a cohort. So it's a little broader age range. And as Dana suggested, there's in a general education classroom, there may be more whole group and small group learning activities. In a Montessori classroom, it's much more individualized. So the children throughout the day really are choosing their own learning activities and engaging at their own pace.
I am so sorry. I asked the question about the Montessori and then my phone died. I'm so sorry. Is it possible to get the summary?
What we can do is give a super quick summary, and then we may be able to put a link in the chat too, if that's
Yes.
helpful. Dana,
Yes,
you want to go
thank
ahead?
you.
Yes. So what we were just sharing is that the Montessori schools follow a Montessori approach for early childhood education. I know it was developed by Maria Montessori. It is an open-ended, child-directed approach. Whereas the other ECE programs have, we have specific curriculums, center times, small group, large group. It's much more teacher directed, even though we still have very much child directed programs, the Montessori programs are even more so. And Cheryl had tagged on as well that it's a mixed age model and it's a broader mixed age. So the children would in Montessori classrooms will be between 3 and 5 years old, and they stay basically what they call looping. They stay with their teachers throughout in that class throughout the progression of their early years. I think that's pretty much what we said. I don't remember. Was there something else that I missed, Cheryl, on that one?
I think that about covers it. And I put a link in the chat that gives just a little bit of information about our Montessori programs. And there's also a link in that link that'll take you to more explanation about what Montessori education looks like.
That's great. And there was a question way at the top just asking about the general start and end times for the day, and most of our schools do start and end about the same time. However, some of our schools do offer before care or after care. So if that is important to accommodate your schedule, that's definitely something that you can consider when applying. The My School DC website does allow you to filter by schools that offer those programs as well. Right. Any other questions? Again, please feel free to unmute or enter in the chat. One question that definitely came up quite a few times on registration forms was, if I have a child entering pre-K 3, do they need to be potty trained by the time they start pre-K 3? And so I just want to make sure that to relieve all the parents out there that know your child does not need to be potty trained to start pre-K 3 or pre-K 4 at DC Public Schools. And if it's the case that you've been working on it and your child is just not ready, you will communicate with your child's teacher at the beginning of the school year. Let them know, what strategies you've been trying so that you can work together to really come up with a plan for your child. But no, they will not be not admitted for not being potty trained quite yet. We know that is, just another area of development, like learning to read, learning to write and everything. And every child's going to do that in their own time.
I do want to elaborate on the waitlist question. So the way the waitlist works, this is why preference is important. So let's say you listed 12 schools and you get matched with your number 6 schools. All of the schools under number 6 will drop because it is assumed that since number 6 was higher than them, you weren't that interested. You preferred number 6 over them. So all schools 1 through 5, you will be placed on the wait list. So the way the wait lists work, and I do want to say, so even if you do accept that match, that does not mean you cannot, if you get called off of the wait list from a school you really wanted, you can still enroll in that school. So just because enrolling doesn't prevent you from, enrolling in another school. So that's a possibility. But the way the wait list works, schools will, leverage their wait list almost immediately. So a lot of schools do leverage their wait list. It's based off of spaces. As we know, just because you get a match, everyone does not enroll in their match school. So it's based on the amount of seats that a school has compared to how many people applied. So the wait list is sporadic. It's never really, you never really know. It's not a time, you can't put a time stamp on it. So unfortunately, you won't know when you may get off of a wait list, but you will know that you are waitlisted when the lottery results are released on March 29th.
Thanks, Lanika. Right. Any other questions this evening? I'm going to put some links in the chat, give everyone a chance to think about what other questions they have. But I'll put some links in the chat for you to follow. We do have a survey that I'll put there for you to fill out. It just takes a minute to fill out. And by filling out the survey and giving us feedback on the event this evening, you are entered to win a bundle of children's books. So be sure to look out for that. What else? Panelists, anything else that you'd like to add this evening? Considerations, things that have come up in past sessions?
Well, I would like to add that you had mentioned the question around toilet learning. We do have a session coming up, I believe, in toilet learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm dropping the link in the chat now. So anybody who would like some assistance in helping your child do some toileting, let us know. Come on and join us again.
It's a popular topic.
Yes.
I'm putting that link in there now. And again, I know that we've put the email address for the enrollment team. You can definitely reach out to them. We'll also put our email address in there so that you can reach out to us with any questions that you might have. We're always happy to chat. Right. Those should be in there now. And like Dana mentioned, we do have a session on toilet learning coming up. And we offer sessions on a monthly basis throughout the year on a variety of topics. So you can definitely check out readyforpk.org to stay up to date on our schedule. All of our sessions are free and open to the public. So we hope we see you at some of those. One thing to consider is that later this spring, we will offer a session on actually helping to prepare your child for the transition into pre-K. So after you as the parent get through this lottery and enrollment process and start thinking about actually having your child transition into pre-K, we will have some sessions available, with recommendations for books that are helpful, ways that you can start to prepare them for that transition so that it is smooth and it's really an exciting time. Right? And if there are no other questions at this time, we'll go ahead and give you a couple minutes of your evening back. I know that everyone's schedules are tight, and I'll hang on for a moment to keep an eye on the chat so that if something pops through, we can go ahead and address that. But thank you all so much for being here this evening. I so appreciate you joining, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.